Hello and welcome back to Wealth and Wisdom. Today, another great book from Douglas Brackmann, Driven: Understanding and Harnessing the Genetic Gifts Shared by Entrepreneurs, Navy SEALs, Pro Athletes, and maybe you. So, you can see here the book on Amazon, you can get it here, and let us begin. So, what can we say about Dr. Brackmann? He has an interesting story, and he's one of the leading psychologists to some of the most successful and driven entrepreneurs, pro athletes, executives, and other top performers. After earning dual PhD in psychology in 2002, Dr. Doug has devoted the last 15 years to working with the driven population in order to help them focus on their gifts to achieve personal and professional success. Here we can see that while Dr. Doug has achieved a lot throughout the course of his career, his journey there wasn't the easiest. A high school dropout at the age of 17 years old, Doug found himself homeless and living on the streets. Soon thereafter, his aha moment came at the age of 18 after being jolted awake by the words, "You can't sleep here," as an older woman knocked on the back of the van he was living in at the time. He suddenly saw himself through her eyes and knew he wasn't the person he saw. After this awakening moment, he decided to do something different with his life. That decision led to some inner questioning and then to his wondering, what's wrong with me? But nothing was wrong with him. His driven genetics were simply a mismatch for our conventional world. Sometime after making this decision, Doug went into recovery for his addictions and went to graduate from high school, then worked tirelessly to earn his bachelor's degree from USC and to dual PhD from UCSD so he could help others facing the same issues that plagued him for much of his life. By combining the components of meditation, long-range shooting, and therapy, Dr. Doug helps those with driven characteristics, often wrongfully diagnosed as ADD, ADHD, OCD, or other, to harness their hunter abilities so they can stop self-sabotaging, find fulfillment in life, and achieve the ultimate success. Here we have from Wes Inskip, testimonial, former Navy SEAL. In a life lived at a breakneck pace, I have found little reason to abandon the overwhelmingly successful attributes that are often mislabeled as compulsions or disorders. I fit more into each day, create more work product, maintain higher quality and attention to detail, but oftentimes at the expense of anything resembling contentment. Doug has shown me a method of creating a little breathing room, a way to focus positive energy and concentrate on tasks at hand. This tool has allowed me to wipe the slate, often several times a day. Conventional meditation doesn't work for me. It merely gives my imagination more leash, leading to additional stress. This method of hyperfocus has become an integral, seamless part of my daily routines and continue to be part of it likely for the rest of my life. So we can see that Doug has had an interesting story, interesting life, and here we see some interesting testimonials. He has some interesting services that he uses to help people in their journey through life. And his book is also great. But let us go back to his book. So, some interesting insights from the book. Some people are born with a drive often seen in entrepreneurs, pro athletes, investors, adventurers, and Navy SEALs. It's in their DNA. Research has shown that certain genes can manifest resilient and highly focused people who can also be impulsive and easily distracted. While these traits enabled our ancient ancestors to survive, If you have these traits today, it can create havoc in your life. You may be diagnosed with ADHD, ADD, or OCD. But what the world tells you is a disability or disorder might actually be your greatest gift. Now it's time to learn how to use it. Here to help is author Doug Brackmann, using his experience teaching the highly driven how to master their gift. Doug provides the insight and tools you need to master yours. You will discover. So, in this book, we will discover how to stop self-sabotage forever, end shame and doubt, find your wolf pack, use meditation to put yourself on the right path, and at the end, he says it's time to take control, harness your gift, and get the life you have always wanted. And I believe him that we do share many traits that has helped us in the past, but right now in this new environment, new society are not as usual as we would have wanted. So, he says, once those of us with these driven traits can reconceptualize our purpose so that it maps to our genetic blueprint and begins to harness our latent potential, we can be excellent at what we do in the world as it is now. Again, we are not broken. The world around us is designed by those different from us, and we forgot over time and over generations what our purpose in society was. It was a collection of driven brains that put a man on the moon and created the iPhone. It is the driven who can take an idea and create a company that will dominate the market within months and years. We are driven. All that energy, which is not very useful when a class of children learning their ABCs, is channeled into a force that cannot be stopped when leveraged correctly. These individuals become supercharged with purpose and focus. That's what I'm talking about. We're talking a lot on this channel on purpose and focus. The purpose of this book is not to make scientific inquiry into these genetic or epigenetic interactions. Rather, the goal is to inform the reader that these behavior patterns are a normal variant of human behavior. The driven are not broken. They possess exceptional gifts. When you understand this, you can move beyond the social stigma and personal shame often associated with these differences. More importantly, you will be able to follow the mastery path, the lifelong path toward learning to use the powerful advantages you, as a driven person, possess. As someone who is driven, you are uniquely suited to the mastery path. On the mastery path, with a big M, you will learn to harness your gifts and thrive even in the world does not seem a fit for you. A master in the art of living draws no sharp distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence through whatever he is doing and leaves others to determine whether he is working or playing. To himself, he always seems to be doing both, enough for him that he does it well. That's from Lawrence Peirce Jacks. Nearly 10% of the population possesses a genetic difference that, with the right environmental conditions, manifests in a powerful, unstoppable drive. Our duty is to encourage everyone in his struggle to live up to his own highest ideal and strive at the same time to make the ideal as near as possible to the truth. From Swami Vivekananda. And Douglas tells us, when the driven thrive, their gifts bring extraordinary outcomes for themselves and society. The trick is to harness those gifts to work for us rather than undermine our efforts. You can see that probably for yourself. Many times in our society, you are labeled. You are told that you are even gifted or not gifted. You are told that you are special or not special. You are told that you are good or not good. So that's not right. That's not correct. That's actually very incorrect. Because, as we have told many times, we have the possibility of growth. You can have a growth mindset or you can have a fixed mindset. Our society is formed around a fixed mindset, and everyone tells you that you're either or, but it's not the case. You have the potential of growth. And let us continue. Initially, Laura's need to be rewarded also resulted in some negative behaviors, and she was kicked out of 3 high schools. She was, however, able to recognize those tendencies and establish some critical boundaries, building her own set of practices to handle her powerful drive. At an early age, she recognized that her own container needed to be tight, and she would have to guard against the negative manifestations of her genetic gifts. These disciplines were the key. Laura learned the paradoxical truth that discipline equals freedom, as our great Jocko Willink from last time told us. She knew her powerful energies must be channeled correctly and addressed constantly. She had opportunities to learn these techniques through her travels and multicultural experiences, spending time at the Shaolin Temple in China, practicing Kung Fu and meditation, making 9 trips to India, studying yoga, and finding herself in the hospital multiple times following snowboarding injuries. That's from an early chapter called Real Life Stories. And if we believe that safety is a visible point on the horizon and we run toward it, we are setting ourselves up for failure and despair. When we finally reach the place we can't wait to get to in order to feel safe and relaxed, it will have evaporated. Again, it's not about the end goal or the destination, it is in fact about the journey. Your great story requires structure. The predisposition to need something better to look toward the future is ultimately grounded in the primal dissatisfaction that manifests as drive. We have the potential for great stories, like those of Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, but we need a structure that aligns with the driven urges, yet keeps us on track. When the framework is absent, it can lead to bad stories. Clients who have found structure and can direct Clients who haven't found structure and can direct their drive fall victims to addictions, from gambling to drugs to sex. These addictions promise relief from the endless, almost obsessive compulsive desire to be better, to get to the anticipated point on the horizon. The drugs, sex, or alcohol offer respite from self-perception and failures, beliefs confirmed by falling short of societal and self-imposed expectations and not grasping that coveted prize. Their disappointment is crushing proof of their inadequacies. Highly driven people need the right environment and the right design for their higher power drive. Envision a Formula One race car. If you put this supercharged machine on a downtown street, you're going to get in trouble. Take that same race car and put it on the Indianapolis Speedway and it's a perfect fit. Understanding your drive is the key to overcoming and avoiding addiction. You want to put your gifts in the right environment, an environment in which a driven individual can thrive. As Winston Churchill says, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. It's always about the courage. As Aristotle says, the first or most important value for us is courage, or the first and most important virtue is courage. And purpose is not a complex analysis of existential reasons why you are on the planet. It is actually very simple. Any reason that is bigger than you is enough. Helping the world and making it a better place is good enough as long as you can embody the emotion and feel the intention. The mastery mindset. The driven person is especially suited for the life of mastery. In fact, given our wiring, we almost have to get on the path or we will eventually self-sabotage. As driven, we're wired to feel that it's never enough or not good enough. This feeling is what drives us to amazing things, but it also drives us to shame and to sabotage. The mastery mindset doesn't change our drive, but rather directs it. It shifts us from a place of never enough or not good enough to a mindset where we look for something more or something better. We realize that we are okay in the present, but that we can be better. This shift is life changing, and I can attest to that. With my wisdom CBT, I have changed a lot. I have become much different from the version that I was before, and the shift is really life changing. We're able to stop trying to cover up our perceived failures, but instead learn to run at them. How can I be better? Cannot exist if you didn't screw up, without finding your faults. We are done pretending to be something in the outside world while hiding in an internal, secret, shameful world. The suffering we experience in our lives stems from the discrepancy between the two worlds. We shift to align the outer and the inner world. The ability to get into this flow state is the ultimate tool for the driven person. Like Michael Csikszentmihalyi. The concept of a finish line is probably the single most undermining belief a driven person can embrace. The driven who are wired this way will never be satisfied. Better is infinite. We can always be better, but it has no finish line. We can become better day in, day out. Day in, day out. And better has no destination, better does not mean perfect. This is a huge difference from a mindset that tells us we need to achieve what's on the horizon so we can be okay. Or we need to get all A's in college to prove we are smart. And of course, once we get the A's, we rationalize that anyone could have gotten them because the courses were easy. That's exactly what I've been feeling all my life and what I've been feeling when I was studying law. There is no need for self-hatred, no need for self-sabotage. We shift to a mindset that knows we are okay, but we can always seek to be better. We can, in fact, always be better. We can always be improving. There is always room for improvement. That's one of many of the wisdom CBT techniques that you can look at life and tell yourself that it can always be improved. So you don't need to feel bad. You don't need to feel ashamed for whatever happened. There is an excitement in being better. Excitement that motivates us to try harder. Better has no finish line. Understanding and believing this is critical to putting an end to self-sabotage. You may come up with ways to be better, but since better has no finish line, you never failed. You never get there, which is great because there's no longer a reason to be anxious. By focusing on being better, we can make small, manageable changes that will last a lifetime. If your primary purpose is to help others, it will be easy to walk into any room without fear of failure, because as we discussed, your goal is to help the people in your audience. Whether they buy or not, you have achieved your goal. True mastery is never achieved, it is only practiced. You and your sword. Japanese swords are known to be some of the world's best. Handmade even today in an extremely intricate process, these swords do not break in battle. The sword's maker puts hard metal on top of soft metal and folds it again and again and again, thousands of times. Hard metal will break and soft metal will bend. Yet, when you fold them together over and over, you are taking the best attributes of each metal and turning them into the most exquisite cutting machine in the world. These swords don't easily lose their edge, and they are curved at exactly the right angle. Just as we would craft a sword in a certain organized way, we do much the same thing with our minds and bodies. We must be soft and gentle in attitude, but strong and accountable in action. The ability to experience and integrate the impulsive and emotional and the logical parts of our lives as a whole results in flow, that fluid state in which we perform at our optimal best. So here Doug tells us about Josh Witskin and From the Art of Learning tells us, great ones are willing to get burned time and again as they sharpen their swords in the fire. Consider Michael Jordan. It is common knowledge that Jordan made more last-minute shots to win the game for his team than any other player in history of the NBA. What is not well known is that Jordan also missed more last-minute shots to lose the game for his team than any other player in the history of the game. What made him the greatest was not perfection, but a willingness to put himself on the line as a way of life. Did he suffer all those nights when he sent 20,000 Bulls fans home heartbroken? Of course, but he was willing to look bad on the road to basketball immortality. And we come to the mastery path. The mastery path is not about making big decisions or big changes. It is the micro commitments and the micro adjustments we make that constitute this constant state of learning. A small change does not trigger resistance in our elephant. It allows us to slowly expand our bandwidth. If we appreciate and are grateful for this process, if we celebrate the small steps, we can enjoy the reinforcing feeling of satisfaction. We don't lose heart, we don't give up. We don't focus on a specific point in the distance because we are not interested in a specific location on the path, only the path itself. The mastery path is perpetual. There is no finish line. We keep learning. And that's actually great and powerful message. I love his ideas, I love what he does, and I recommend you read this book, and hope you enjoyed this video. Please, if you can, put the thumb up so you can help out the channel. Hope to see you soon and have a great day.